we are back in the shop here after Drift Appalachia Stage 3. I did not roll the car over. Look at that. Look at that. It's totally fine. But I'm really sick of only having 220 horsepower, maybe. No, before we take the engine out of it, we are taking the engine out because I got Ford power. That's right. Ford EcoBoost 2.3 liter. I don't have any experience with these except I swapped one out of a Focus RS a few years ago, and they're all aluminum, turbocharged, make really good torque, plentiful, not expensive at all really, and a company called GemSport makes a swap kit. So for all those reasons, I'm going to try one of these engines out in the E36. So we are going to weigh the engines, weigh the car, and see what kind of power the E36 makes. Probably we have to put a diff back in it just to do that, so I'm not 100% sure we're gonna do that yet. And yeah, so let's see what's up with this engine. What a beaut. This is an attractive piece of machinery. All right, so I'm gonna strip all this stuff off this thing that I don't need, which is a lot. These massive engine mounts, AC stuff's gonna go. I'm not gonna use this expansion tank. We're probably gonna make our own. All this plastic intake and intercore pipe stuff's gonna go. We're gonna delete whatever the hell this is. This here on the back of the engine is a vacuum pump. It's for the brake booster, but luckily my car has manual brakes, so I'm gonna just delete that thing. Somebody actually makes a block off plate for that. We're gonna delete that. Just kind of strip this thing down and get an idea how we're gonna plumb it. What we're gonna do about radiator hoses, heater hoses, stuff like that. All right, so I'm gonna preface the rest of this video with the fact that you would think that we'd install a Japanese engine of some sort. We certainly thought about that. SR20s are expensive nowadays. I have to fabricate a rear sump oil pan and engine mounts and all the other stuff that would come along with that, which is just time consuming. JZs and RBs are long, heavy, and also expensive. The K20 was an obvious option, but big oil pump clearance issues in these cars, so I opted away from that. They can also get really expensive once you start piecing it all together. Just because the engines are cheap doesn't mean the rest of it is. And the EcoBoost engine just seemed like the smart decision, really. They are inexpensive, plentiful. You can still get lots of new parts for them. They have plenty of aftermarket support. They make a ton of torque and power. Very small, lightweight, compact package. And the fact that there are these swap parts available for my specific application, it kind of seemed like a no-brainer to me. So looking forward to getting this thing going. You can see our little turbo here now. What are we looking at here? That thing feels okay, so that's good. I think we're just gonna cut the factory. He gave me the factory cap pipe with the engine, so I think we're just gonna cut the flange off. Do some basic heater hoses off of this, most likely. Or I'll just delete this steel pipe, this whole pipe, and run a hose right off here. The expansion tank also feeds off of that with a T, but I might run the expansion tank off like the bottom of the radiator, like weld a bung onto it. All right, we are going to see what the M3 weighs before we take the big long cast iron engine out of it. Going on the scales, take all the weight off. 2,800 pounds as it is. Not bad. And it is 47.59% rear weight. So a little front heavy, but that's not terrible at all for a drift car, in my opinion. we got the Mustang oil pan off. They're both rear sump pans, but we're switching to a Ford Ranger oil pan, which you can get for like $100 or less, brand new, Rock Auto, various other online cheap auto parts retailers. This thing looks pretty damn nice actually for $100 or less. So you get this sump, and you got to get a different oil pump pickup and modify it, which was really hard to find. I think it's going to be discontinued if it isn't now. And then these things normally have a counterbalance, like balance shafts, which is this mechanism right here. We delete that. Apparently they rev faster. They don't really need it. It's more for like drivability. And then Mountune makes that billet block off right there. It just kind of seals the oil feed for that. Nice and easy instead of having to make one myself. So next step is to put the oil pan on and bolt mounts and stuff to it. Get this thing in the car. All right, Elias got little tabs and brackets that we're not using for like the air box and air pump and whatever other BMW crap we had the pleasure of deleting. Got all those brackets cut out. And so we got a little cleaner engine bay. And the next step is to test fit the EcoBoost. That's Elias. He is prepping the engine just to sit in there. He got my motor mounts bolted on, oil pan bolted on, power steering pump. This is a BMW power steering pump, and Gem Sport makes this bracket. It's kind of cool. So yeah, this thing's about ready to drop in. We're going to see how it fits. Only real concern is this fuel pump here. Wondering how that's going to mesh with the firewall and like the heater box and this stuff. So first test fit, I really like how far back the engine sits. Look at all this space we have here. That's pretty awesome. Clearance issues. Fuel pump is definitely not going to clear the factory cowling, so that's going to have to be removed or at least heavily modified. And then we also are going to have to trim a little bit of firewall material here, it looks like. The heater bypass solenoid stuff on the other side has to get removed or relocated. But otherwise, not too bad. I think in an effort to get the engine as far back as possible, all those things are totally fine. Here we have the Gem Sport flywheel. This is part of the conversion kit that they sell. It looks like a really nice piece, despite how kind of massively thick it is. It's actually really light. It's all cut out in the back. And got replaceable friction surface like all aluminum flywheels. Pilot bearing already installed. That depth and everything is already sorted for me, so I don't have to do any measuring for that at all. So we're going to torque this thing on there. Bam, clutch and adapter plate on. We're gonna see what we're doing with these heater hoses. Still don't know. I'm not sure if this one's gonna interfere with the bell housing. It might not. Not sure yet. But also, heat on this side, no good, as the ones on the BMW are on this side of the engine. So we got to figure that out. But I'm going to clean up some of the trimming I had to do here to get the fuel pump to clear. I did that with the engine still in the car, so it's kind of ugly. Gonna clean that up, put the engine back in the car, maybe for good. We'll see. So our friends over at Radium happened to make this crankcase baffle plate for the EcoBoost engine. It's pretty trick. It comes with a dash 10 O-ring, bosses already threaded into it, and it also has better baffling in it, like 2 baffle plates inside of it, which is supposed to be superior to the factory plastic part. So I put a Radium PCV to dash 6 there, and then this is just like some parts bin hose and fittings and a chewed up parts bin dash 10 plug for now, and I just hooked that up to the intake manifold just to get me going. I'll come up with like a better, little tidier solution for that, but that's what I got for now. Engine is in the car for good. Got the angle, everything right, adapter plate on. Real happy with how far back those engine mounts sit this engine. I love that sort of thing. I put the original M3 radiator in here. It's a CSF and it's got an electric fan. It worked fine for that. But the inlet and outlet are on like the opposite sides I need them to be on. So I didn't want to do this, but I'm going to put a custom radiator in here. Got a CNR on the way. It's going to have, it's dual pass, so they'll both be on this side. So I'll at least have a shorter distance for this upper hose will go whoop, and then the lower hose will cross over to the thermostat housing. You can see the fitment of the engine here. Oil pan has a little bit of ground clearance. I can technically lower the engine more based on this space between the steering rack here, but and normally I would, but I'm worried about oil pan clearance. So until this thing gets some custom pan or a dry sump or something, it's going to stay right where it is, which is probably forever. And transmission bolted on to the factory bracket, which is cool. Shift linkage stayed the same. I did make these little spacers here just to change the angle of the engine a little bit. I didn't want it tilted back as much, so I just made these, and it was very simple. I bet it has something to do with my aftermarket engine mounts. I have these Condor mounts. Who knows why, but shift linkage worked out perfectly. It's just original. I didn't do anything to it. It's great. Drive shaft should work just the same as it did as stock, which is cool. Makes the swap easy. For the fuel system, while I'm under here, basically what I got going on is I found this old Peterson fuel filter from an old race engine setup we had, and I put that in the factory bracket. And I'm going to got my feed go right from the factory feed hardline into this filter, all right? And then this will go from here right to, I'm gonna mount a adjustable fuel pressure regulator here under the car. And then, so my feed line will come out of that. It's a single line to the engine, there's no return. So I'll feed from here, there, and then the return will come out of the side of the regulator, bottom of the regulator, and right here to the factory return line. So everything will be nice and tidy right here. Only have one line running up to the high pressure pump. So that one line will come from that side of the engine up over top here, and I'll probably put like a 150-degree fitting here on this. So this is the high pressure pump for the direct injection. It runs off the back of the camshaft on the exhaust side. I found this cool little Radium adapter, like quick release to 6AN. It's in my parts bin, a little leftover from something, so that's very convenient. So I'm just gonna run a dash 6 hose from here back. Very cool. Intercooler brackets you just saw me cut out are now in place. Put a little bend in them, mounting them to the vertical part of the core support. 3/16 aluminum welded directly to the top of this intercooler. Boop. Intercoolers all mounted. Bam, bam. Just those two brackets with 4 8mm bolts. This thing's mega rigid. You probably tow the car with it. And I started mocking up some pipes here. Just gonna go up through these holes that already exist in the chassis. See, that's going to work out really well. Got some stuff started here, just get an idea. And Shane is going to, he 3D scanned this area. He's going to make us a tank that goes here. It's going to be a big breather tank and then a coolant header tank as well. So that thing should be pretty awesome. Yeah, so I think that's where we're going to leave this video. So that's all for this video. I think we're going to come back. The next video going to be fabrication, plumbing, that type of stuff. And yeah, so stay tuned. Going to be a really fun car. I'm excited about it.